Good morning. Welcome to the Healing Path. Laura Donnelly here. And I am the founder and creator of Dancing with Ease, Body Brain Balance for Peak Performance. The Healing Path is one of the ways people can discover modalities and ways to work on their own healing from inside themselves. This is just a series of conversations that I have with friends and colleagues who are working all over the world in multiple modalities of healing. And the thing about healing is that there isn't just one way, and there for sure isn't just one way for everyone. So the purpose of this show is to share different paths with people who are looking for a new direction, any direction. And the key element for me and my guests, the common denominator is that the idea that all healing starts in and from ourselves and expands out into the world. So my guest today is Laura Gray, and I will bring her onto the broadcast and she'll tell you a little bit about her history. Hi, Laura.
Hi, good morning, Laura.
That's so funny, isn't it, Laura?
I know. Hi, Laura.
I like it. So, do you want to just share a little bit about your journey? What set you off on a path of healing and helping other people to heal themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for inviting me to be with you and be on your show, and for also everything that you do to shine a light on healing and to show others that it is possible and that we've kind of all been there and we're all in it together. So, thank you for that. My journey began, as a young child, and I suffered some severe trauma for a number of years, sexual abuse, where I ultimately ended up in the hospital from it. And so when you're going through that type of trauma, and that individual who was a close friend of the family just kept saying, if you tell anyone, they'll never believe you, and I will find you and kill you and your mother. I heard that for a number of years between the ages of 3 and 6. And so even though I did end up in the hospital from the repeated trauma, at that time, this was the early 70s, they had determined that I was allergic to bubble bath. And it was kind of almost like a case closed. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Christmas.
So, case for me as a 6-year-old, case closed also meant mouth closed, because I was in my head, I was like, well, if they didn't figure this out, I'm not saying a word, because he said he would kill me. And he also said that no one would believe me, which is, a lot of that I say is stereotypical for the pedophile, but it's true. It's a stereotype because it's true. So I didn't tell anyone until I was 32. So
Oh,
I was 32 years old. My oldest was 1 years old, and I think that kind of brought out in me the maternal nature, the need to feel. I can't explain it. It was just like this feeling that came out of me, and I started to talk about it and share what had happened. And for me, the most important thing was to hear somebody say, "I believe you." And those words were the start, not the entire, but the start of my healing. To hear somebody say that, it kind of validated the inner child in me. Like, oh, the dog's about to bark. I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. This is life.
It's live, it's real life. Yeah, there's a truck that just pulled in the front yard and he's looking out the window. So, anyways, that was kind of the start of my healing. But even as I proceeded down the path at the age of 32, It wasn't until, like, I remember distinctively Thanksgiving of that year, and I was upstairs in a bedroom crying. Hold on a minute.
He's protecting you.
Well, he is, yes, he's a sweetheart of a dog, and it's my friend's dog, so that's okay. I apologize. But anyways, I specifically remember being upstairs in a bedroom and just sobbing and sobbing on Thanksgiving, thinking, why couldn't anyone protect me? And just really thinking about how frightened I must have been as a small child. And for me, this is my story, so I can share my truth, that at that moment of remembering the terror, that a voice as clear as mine or yours said to me, "You were not alone. I was with you always." And it was literally just the clearest voice and very calming. And that to me is what really ultimately started my journey. And for me, that was the voice of God, the voice of source, however and whomever people refer. That was what I needed to hear. And it really gave me comfort and began my ultimate journey to healing, which I got to tell you, fast forward, this is like 20 some years later. I feel like in many ways I'm still healing.
Yes.
I'm still healing, and that's not a negative.
No, I think healing is a journey, and it's kind of an unfolding, sort of like how a rose unfolds. It has its own way of unfolding.
Correct.
And we don't know this when we start. We don't even know the steps. It's like you took the first step, and then the next step shows up, and the next step shows up.
Right. Yeah. And like a flower blooming, they can't control that.
No.
They just do.
Right.
And when it's time, because it is a process, and it is a journey for each flower as they rise.
And you can't make it bloom faster by pulling the petals.
Right.
Petals just fall off.
Correct. And there is nurturing involved in that process. And patience.
I was just thinking patience.
Yeah, that word just came to me too. Patience,
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of where it began. And with the words of people saying, wow, I believe you. But then in addition to that, the strong voice of God or source saying, you were never alone. I was with you always. And that provided great comfort and allowed me to continue forward, and really just work towards. I was telling somebody the other day, in many ways, I still feel so fragmented. And yet in many ways, I've never been more whole. And that to me reminds me of like a stained glass window, which there's just the ultimate beauty in that. Once those pieces are together, they're still pieces, but collectively it's a beautiful work of art.
Yeah. What I remember another piece of that for me was getting really clear on what was important to me, and being able to say no to certain things. And this idea that I was both more flexible and more tolerant of other people, but really clear, I'm not going this direction. I'm not going that direction. I won't be pulled off my path.
Right.
And
well, that's true.
Yeah. And it was just funny because it was like both more flexible and less flexible, but in different areas of my life.
Yeah, that's the fluidity. That's the fluidity of healing and the surrender.
Yeah.
Which is really hard.
Yeah. Yes. And after you do the surrender, the freedom that comes makes it a little bit easier the next time you come up to one of those surrender points.
Yes. Yes, I would agree with that. And then the other part, like when you talk about the clarity, um, forgiveness for myself, and when I've said that to people or whomever, and they're like, well, you didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, but I didn't know that. I
Right,
thought, I assumed, especially in the childlike mind, I thought I must have been a bad girl. Why is this happening to me? I must have done something wrong. And so I had my own guilt, my own shame. I mean, shame is in all caps, so that was a powerful, deep, dark emotion to overcome. And part of that still lingers. And that's, I think, my message is actually that it's okay to still be healing. I feel like I would not be authentic if I said, oh, yeah, I got everything together and, my life is great. And yeah, my life is great, but that doesn't mean I'm not still healing.
right. That there is not more unfolding,
Correct.
that and that we don't stumble.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I mean, different things upset my balance, I mean, it's not, yes, what you said is so perfect. We're all still healing, but this, I think people think, well, I will be healed and done.
Yeah.
I will get my life in balance and be done.
Right. Check
And
that box.
yeah, and
Yeah.
this idea that what is in balance for us today is not what's in balance for us tomorrow.
If we're lucky, because that means we are still growing and changing and evolving. But that's also, to me, a part of the lesson, because I was like that, thinking, okay, I told everybody I'm going to be fine now. Okay, that wasn't the case. And then it was like, okay, I did this, so okay, and it was like kind of never that. So I felt like the runner for track who signed up for track, and then you're like, wait a minute, I'm in the hurdles race. I'm like, well, wow, suddenly there's hurdles who nobody told me, and you just come up on it and you're like, oh, okay, and then another one, it's okay. And with each one, like you said, you do get stronger and you expand. And yeah, growth can be hard and growth hurts, but like I have three sons, and I tell them no one learns from an easy test. You walk away, you walk out of the classroom, you didn't learn from that one, but the one that really challenged you and you got a few wrong, what did you get wrong? How can we learn from that? So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think the important thing that you mentioned, and I know that you work with young people, and this is, I was really probably in my late 20s when I realized that I had this thing that I now call child logic. And as a child, it made a perfect, sensible bubble in my knowledge of the world, my knowledge of my family, how things happened. This was a complete construct, but it was based on faulty knowledge. Like you said, you blamed yourself. Well, my dad died when I was 9, and I thought as a child I had done something wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
if I could figure out what I had done wrong and
He'll come
never
back.
do it again,
Yeah.
he would come back.
Oh. Mm.
Okay, well then this means I can never be good enough because he isn't coming back.
Right. I get it. It was a
Yeah.
moving target for you.
It's just, it was a perfect thing. But then I was probably about 27, right? So 2 cycles of 9 later,
Correct. Right.
I was working on this, and like you said, working with inner child work, and I had this shift in thinking that was good enough. I didn't have to be perfect. I could be just good enough.
Hmm.
And then, interestingly enough, I started to have memories about my dad, about growing up, about when he was in our family with us, came back. And that Christmas, my brother gave everybody a mug that he had you know how you could make those mugs with pictures
Yeah.
on them. But
Yeah.
he had found a snapshot of our whole family together with my dad, like one of the last ones. And he gave everybody a picture of that. Whereas before, so this for me is how our individual healing filters into the world in ways
Oh,
we
yeah.
don't know.
Oh, yeah.
We
Oh,
don't know.
yeah.
We don't know who it's going to touch and how it's going
Right.
to touch them. But something I did changed me in a way that let him get the idea. We didn't even talk about this, he and I.
Wow. What a message.
Yeah, yeah. And so then we gradually begin to as a family, you know, to heal what my mom had done at the time. She just threw everything he had away, put everything of stuff in boxes, sold all of his tools.
So he was gone.
He was gone, absolutely gone, because she couldn't go forward. She couldn't handle the loss of him and stay present to raise us with his things around. I mean,
Right.
all the pictures were gone. And
And
then,
that's okay because you honored that was her process.
yeah, and then 18 years later, we started to revisit it from a safe distance for everybody. And so that, but if you had told me when I was 9 that it was going to be 18 years before I started to heal from that loss,
Right.
I would have been too,
Crushed.
yeah,
I
I can't wait that long.
Right. Oh, I get it. I do. I know, like when you were saying about feeling not to be perfect and, it's okay to be good enough for me. Like, so after when I got out of the hospital at the age of 6, and like I said, I had figured, well, I must have done something wrong because I have 7 brothers and sisters. And I thought, well, he picked me because, in my little head, I was trying to figure it out. And so when I got out of the hospital and nothing had been, determined or whatever, I became perfect. I became perfect. I studied hard. I did this, I did that because I didn't want anyone in my mind I was perfect. I didn't want anyone to see how cracked I was, number 1. I didn't want anyone to see shame in me. So therefore, it was like perfect, funny. I played every sport. I was, oh, this okay. And meanwhile, it was really just like the cracked doll, that you didn't notice the crack unless you picked her up. And so that was a challenge for me, but that was actually so liberating to release myself, which was also part of the forgiveness, that I didn't have to be perfect. What is perfect? What is perfect? There is no perfect. There is no perfect. There's only growth.
But somehow I had an idea that there was perfect.
Yes.
And I had an idea that I could achieve it. So this is also, I think, partly because like when you're in a learning stage and and you're trying to learn to color inside the line. I mean, there's just all this stuff that happens as learning, which is not done to make you afraid to step out of the lines. But sometimes for some kids, and based on the other things that happen to you,
Right.
that's the result. You're afraid to step outside the lines.
The fear.
And so we have a couple of comments. My friend Borat, she says that she's been living with a chronic disease most of her life, and she agrees with us that healing in the mind and body is an ever ongoing process.
It is. And and thank you for that and acknowledging that. And I also feel that that should be okay. I mean, I think people, when they hear healing, it's like, okay, but when are you going to get better? But I am healing. Isn't that
Good
good
enough.
Good enough. Oh my gosh. I didn't even set that up intentionally, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, no, see, and that's the other thing is when you are in a space with the intention to heal, synchronicities happen.
Yes.
Your growth sparks my growth sparks your growth. It will happen for the people who listen live, who listen to the recording. And so I did determine at some point, I taught ballet most of my life, which is also part of this perfection thing, right? There is this classical ideal,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very easy to say, well, you know, well, okay, this is one of the other. Okay, I was at least 20 when I did this, or 19 or something. I had always been trying to lose 5 more pounds, just 5 more pounds. If I lost 5 pounds, I would be, oh, I lost 5 pounds. I looked in the mirror and I looked exactly the same, just a tiny bit smaller,
Yeah.
right? And in that moment, it flashed in my mind that I had imagined that if I could lose this 5 pounds, my legs would be 5 inches longer.
Oh, yeah.
And like instead of 5'3", I would be 5'8", tall enough to do certain things like the Rockettes, or there's certain dance companies wanted really tall women in.
Yeah.
And when that, I mean, I just remember looking in the mirror and laughing at, that false idea disappeared. And then I could start to focus on being healthy, eating well, eating
Mm-hmm.
healthy, not always trying to lose 5 pounds as if
Yeah.
that would, because I had this magical thinking that the 5 pounds would fix something.
Yeah. It was holding you back.
And I was like, I think I was 19 by the time that happened. And so one of the things I think is really beautiful about the work that you're doing with IPride is that these ideas, these are okay ideas. They get kids through things, right? But there's a time that they should be released, and somehow we carry them way into adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I think it was your story you described when you had your son. This desire to protect him is what stepped you into healing for yourself.
Right. It's like I was actually finally starting to protect myself and discover what that really meant, which freed me to start talking about it.
Yeah, and to change things. And so when I teach young dancers, I add all kinds of things into the teaching about this kind of work, about
Which is it's
self-esteem.
all part of it. Yeah.
You
I
know,
know. So when you talked about like the ballet and losing 5 pounds and growing, 5 inches or whatever. So when I was younger, I loved gymnastics. It was like the Olga Korbut, Nadia Comaneci. I thought Laura Gray. I thought Laura Gray, so I took some little acrobat gymnastic classes. And I mean, this almost makes me a little cry again. I remember when the lady came up to me one day, she goes, I think I was in fourth grade. She goes, well, honey, you're too tall for gymnastics. I'm like, I mean, so right now as an adult, I'm 5'6". So I was taller then, et cetera. But when she said that to me, it was like, oh, I am? So I get it. And mine was kind of the reverse because I wanted to do gymnastics and they were like, well, you're too tall. Um, and I appreciate you bringing up the work with iPride, which is the self-esteem program for kids. It's a youth empowerment program that I founded in 2015, and primarily as a result of my own healing. Like I said, and we talked about, healing is a journey, and I felt it was important to start really teaching kids, and not just quote abused kids, because nobody wants to be singled out again. All kids, can benefit from mindfulness, breathing exercises, meditation, affirmations. We have 2 workshops. One is called I Pride Right, and that's right like the letter W. And the other is I Pride Fit. So the 2 workshops are about an hour long each. And like I said, we start off with some breathing and some affirmations. And then if it's IPride Write, we go into creative writing, creative expression. And from there, the kids then learn presentation skills if they're willing. I don't want to force somebody to present, because then that's like, honey, you're too tall for gymnastics. You know what I'm saying? So, they present, they learn how to walk with pride, say who they are, make the eye contact. My name is Laura Gray, and this is what I drew today. So it's very brief and simple. And then the audience is taught how to learn to listen with respect to diverse ideas. Now, you may not have drawn that, but she did. And that doesn't mean it's right, wrong, better. It's just her idea, her thoughts. And then for iPride Fit, we do some basic movements, some stretching, a little bit of weight training. If possible, the kids bring in food cans that we use like as dumbbells, for biceps, and then we'll donate them to a local food pantry after. There's just many different ways I can take that iPride Fit. It depends on the location, what's available to me, really what the interests of the teachers are. Because iPride is predominantly in schools, and it's kind of a support to the work that the teachers who do such great work with our kids. It's a support of the teachers. And I've been youth leadership programs, the juvenile detention center. It's just well received, and it really continues to thrive and grow. And I'm really grateful.
I think it's so important because it's mostly middle school, right? Middle school.
Middle school is, yeah, I've worked with as young as 4, which is too young, I think, for what I'm doing. I have worked through college age as well. And so I'd say middle school on up, but really, I guess if you have to call something a sweet spot, it would be middle school.
Well, I think for me, that middle school place was where I really closed down.
Mm.
It's that place for most kids. You're growing out of sequence.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're too tall and you bump into things because you don't know where you are in space yet because you had a growth spurt, or and it's that social time where you're supposed to know how you fit into society when you don't even know who you are.
Yeah.
So this work to give people a solid foundation in trusting themselves,
Self-awareness.
yeah,
And
tools.
whatever that means, and being okay with it.
Yeah, and tools like okay, my heart's beating really fast. Maybe if I take some deep breaths, that will calm me down so that when I have to stand up in front of class and read this report, all it takes is one time, one history report, something that doesn't even matter, and the whole class laughing at you.
Oh.
For you to say, I'm never going to do public speaking again.
Right.
And so it's not that bad things aren't going to happen, but it sounds like you're really giving kids a good set of tools to support themselves as they kind of go over the bumpy path of.
Yeah. And they are, as you can imagine, they are little sponges. They're so appreciative because they now more than ever, they know what's going on. They know what's going on in the world, because even they hear it at home, or they'll hear it on the news or social media or whatever. You and I were talking about fear. Their fear is real and it's intense. So if I can just give them some tools and ideas and journaling and breathing, and they're little sponges. They are, the one boy, he was so cute. He sent me a message after, because the teachers will forward stuff, and he said, I feel like I just released a dinosaur. And I was like,
oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I encourage people to check out your website. It's in the description of the talk, and to get in touch with you. I think the best way to get in touch with you is on LinkedIn, right? Or
the website. There's a contact page.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I would love it. Yes.
And are you teaching teachers in other parts of the country to start to implement this program, or have you done that yet?
Yeah, that is wow. Yeah, well, you and I are definitely in the same vibration. That is my goal. I've had some even international conversations with people, how to infuse the iPride curriculum into the work that they do in the schools, and that's my goal. Yeah, like a train the trainer, and just empower the teachers, or people like-minded like me, that really just want to lift our children, lift them,
Right.
and love them.
And and
They're amazing. It makes my day. So it's not like what I do full time. I work full time at a CPA firm in Cleveland, and so the opportunities that I have to be with these children, it's I get so much out of it. I love it.
I think that this is a beautiful thing to end on, and to give an idea for people to think about is what we do is what we share,
Yeah.
not what we say. And well, interesting. And for you and for me, the part of the disconnect when I was growing up in not trusting myself started the day I came home and I looked at my house and I just had this like wave of like nothing is ever going to be the same.
You knew it.
I knew it. Kinesthetically, I knew something
Oh
was
yeah. Oh
wrong.
yeah.
I go in and my mom isn't there. Somebody else is teaching the dance class in the studio. And one of the parents is there, somebody from our church, I think. And they said, "Oh, your dad fell down at work, but he's at the hospital, but he's going to be okay."
Mm.
And then for at least a week, everybody said it's going to be okay because they didn't know what to say. And at the same time, we moved into my grandma's house. And me, I'm going, this is not okay. If everything is okay, you don't move into your grandma's house.
Right.
you know and so then this was what the grown-ups say and what I know,
Right. Oh
and,
yeah.
and who do I believe, and what do I do with what I know that nobody is verifying. And even after my dad died, they said it will be okay. If any And so now, I mean, I do stuff people don't like. I say it's not ever going to be the same, but you're going to be able to figure out how to go forward.
Yeah.
I mean, I tried to acknowledge, which they didn't know how to do. I give you this, there was not even a grief group in my town where I
Oh
grew up.
yeah. I get that. I never went through therapy for what happened to me. I mean, as a child. As an
It,
adult, I did. Yeah.
they didn't have it when we
Well,
were
I
growing
didn't tell
up.
anybody either. So that's, I colored, I did my own thing, but yeah, they wouldn't have had it anyways.
Right. And so how so now, to be honest, if I'm honest with myself, then I can make a space for other people to be honest with themselves.
Yeah.
They don't have
Beautiful.
to tell me anything.
Yeah.
Right. And the same with the kids. You give them the tools.
Yep.
He doesn't have to tell you what that dinosaur was,
I don't need to know.
but he just left it behind.
Yes. Isn't that a beautiful? Yeah. Beautiful.
And because you do the work with yourself, that's what makes it resonate, especially with young people.
Yeah.
And I think that also in my parents' generation, they had this idea that they couldn't show weakness, that they couldn't.
Well, there was no time for it.
Right,
You know what
right,
I mean?
right. And so, yes, no time for it. So, how to make time? Because even it doesn't take that much time to do a breathing exercise.
Right. Right. And part of what I did during, the shutdown and COVID, I created a YouTube channel for iPride, and there's 5 minutes. So you talk about making time. It's 5 minutes, and it's called iPride in 5, peace in, peace out. And it's 5 minute meditation, mindfulness, affirmations, and stretching. And I sent that out to some local colleges, and it was very well received.
Okay, so I
Yes.
can put that. I can put that. If you send it to me afterwards, I'll put it
Oh,
in
I
the
will for sure. Thank you. And I
so
guess for
that
me, on a closing note, why and based on what you're saying too about trusting yourself and being a kid, is that I believe that iPride is as successful and resonates because not only do the kids really, really need it, but when I am with the kids, I I am a kid. I am still that inner child healing myself while I am teaching them. And it just creates this a lot of beautiful energy, positive energy.
I'm so glad. And I'm so glad we met.
Yeah, I am too.
And this, just so everybody knows how the world is if you choose, right? Everybody says, oh, social media is so bad.
Mm.
Laura and I are part of a conversation. People who write and comment, a lot of it's on LinkedIn, but there's also this thing called Biz Catalyst 360, which is positive and supportive
Hmm.
essays published on almost every topic you could think of.
Hmm.
And because we both write and we both follow some of the other writers and comment, we started to chat. And then we had a talk, and then she showed up on the show, and we will stay in touch and share new things and stuff. So if you are feeling lost and lonely, do reach out to there's somebody who will share with you, who will inspire you to take the
Absolutely.
next step on the healing path.
Absolutely. And thank you, Laura.
Oh, you're welcome. It's so great to have had this time to share and to
I,
talk and to learn more about you, and hopefully we will have helped a few people. So
yes. Thank you.
take care.